A while back, I thought I had people figured out. I believed that by observing their habits, their appearance, how they behaved, and their general mannerisms, I could easily put them in a box that labeled them as a certain type of person. But that was a long ago. Now I understand that each person is unique. Everyone has their own story. With this channel, my goal is to share those stories with you, to show that people are more than just a label, more than a tag from the box. Unique people with unique stories, willing to share them. Hello, everybody. A guest of mine today is Xavier. Xavier is from Australia. Xavier, how are you doing today?
Hey there, I'm doing pretty good. Just got back here from Bonn where I've been off with my girlfriend.
Oh,
Life's
wow.
been going pretty good.
So you have a German girlfriend, right? As I know. How is that going on? All good? What about the cultures, right? Is it working out well so far?
It's going pretty nice, but the one thing, I think the one culture difference that we've seen the most is she's a teacher and we're both students at universities and Hochschules, but she's a teacher of a language school. The main culture difference was that because I'm from a country where, we see teachers or managers as being on the same level as everyone else. And then in Germany, it's very different. Like German teachers, German lecturers are treated with a Sie instead of a Du,
Yeah.
like a they. It's they are, um, they want this, they do this, how's their day going? And you're a teacher yourself, so it'd be like, um, hey there, Mr. Kimeridze, how's their day going?
It's a bit more of a respect, apparently, in German culture, where they try to put down the respect in this they form, right? Yeah, Sie form, right? Sitzen instead of dutzen. Cool. But today we're going to be speaking about something that is interesting for you. So, Xavier, choose the topic you want to go ahead with.
Well, I think we've already gotten a bit kicked off on the topic of these different levels of respect. I'm coming from Australia where I can talk to a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company like Domino's Pizza, um, and just have this normal conversation. The CEO of Domino's Germany is an Australian man who lives on the same town as me. I have walked into a shop once while he's been there and, just mentioned on the casual offhand that I work at a Domino's down the street from him and just had this normal conversation, ordered a quesadilla from him and watched the CEO of this multi-million-dollar company with a Lamborghini parked outside make me a quesadilla and a pizza and, paid the normal wage. And like we see CEOs very differently to, I think, the entire rest of the world. Like, yeah.
Are they more of a friends in Australia? Because my experience, like what it tells me, is that there are different types of managers and CEOs. And from my work experience, I can say that some people have been treating me like a friend when they were my managers, and some have been keeping the wall where they've been saying, "Hey, yeah, I'm your manager. You are expected to behave in a particular pattern." Right? So the idea is like I find it more amazing when a manager of yours is your friend rather than when they set up those boundaries, because for me this idea of work starts with the idea of respect and mutual understanding. And then Australia, I believe, has built it up very well, right? So you got to the point where, hey, the CEO of a company, Domino's, which is an amazing big company, right? Oh, pizza, that sounds good. Yeah, I would actually have pizza. But the CEO of Domino's just walked by and you were able to have a nice chat together, right? So how do you think the Australia got to that?
Well, I think the thing with Australia is that we always like to go on about this, but we started off as a prison colony. So everyone in Australia at the time was a prisoner. Everyone had gone to jail. Everyone had been through that system before, and were just sort of working on this labour as equals. We were the first country in the world after the first British officers died to have a police force where every single person on this team has been to prison before.
Wow.
Every person on Australia's police force. And because of that, our culture's sort of built up this idea of, all right, we're all sort of mates. We've all been inmates before. We've all been through that stuff. And so everyone sort of sees themselves and everyone else as being a few steps lower. Um,
Interesting.
yeah.
But the idea for me comes down to that is amazing. At the same time, I have so many questions in my head right now, all spinning around the topic, right? Because some big companies that are part of Australia now, like Domino's, right? It's a part of this big, large corporate. And I do, at least what I believe is that managers are expected to behave in a certain way, right? But I guess Australia changes it, or what's the idea, right? How does that happen?
Well, it's interesting because our managers have this sort of mutual respect, at least from the managers I've had, where it's like, all right, you're an employee, you're working for us, you're working in whatever job it is, you're working as the guy who's got these boots on the ground, who's actually doing it. What do you need? I've had a CEO of actually the underpants company that I'm wearing now. I worked for them for a bit, and the CEO once came to me while I'm on the job and just asked, "Hey, how's the day going? Is there anything that you're not liking about this job so far? Is there anything like about the lights that you think could be changed? Is there anything about how the setup is where you think it doesn't quite make sense to you? Like, or even just the job in general? Is there anything you could do to improve?" And I just had this normal conversation as if he was just a regular customer, even talking about my job, and just sort of went, "Yeah, I think it would be nice if we could get some lights on this one product back
Mhm.
here to make it look a bit nicer because it's like it was an 80 Australian dollar, like 30 something euro pair of underpants where we wanted to try and sell as many as we could of it. And eventually, like, we got this conversation where he was saying that he also thinks that that sounds like a great idea and he wants to take it to the guys who, like the
Yeah.
landlords, and go, "Hey, would it be possible to shine a spotlight here to make this look a bit nicer?" This is the CEO of a multi-million dollar company, and we just had a normal conversation, just like he's another customer. I think by now they would have gotten that sorted out, but I
Yeah.
left before I could see the end of that.
So you were talking about this underwear company, the one that you're wearing. I remember several times when we met, I remember you being like, here it is.
Yep.
Here's the underwear company. Yeah,
These are the
you are so
Halloween
exactly.
special from, I think, last year. They were the Halloween special. Got a glow in the dark
Yeah.
waistband and the company's logo there, and you
Oh,
just sort
so
of show
cool.
that off
So
to.
cool. And would you be able to do that with the CEO of the company as well? Like, was
Yep.
that an okay thing?
Yeah, that's almost expected on the job. Is just to be proud to show off a bit of the design, show off which ones I'm wearing. I found it funny because the girls I used to work with, we'd used to just start off the day going, "Hey, how's the day going? What pair you got on?" And I think in like any normal setting, if you were to ask a girl, "Hey, what pair of undies you got on?" it's absolutely ridiculous. But we're all working in this business together. Immediately, the respect goes down 3 levels, and it's, "Hey, what pair of undies you got on?" "Oh, today I've got on the Mango Tango, on the whichever socks," and like I don't know. It's just an interesting setting to be working in because we just have our fun on the job, and the CEOs will come by and just go, "Hey, are you having fun today?" Build up this energy and share it with everyone around you. And the more energy you've got, the more energy people see. And if you're playing music loud enough, if you have enough fun, people will be drawn to that. and it will just be a lot nicer than all the other strict shops around, all the other hierarchical management systems. And I don't know, you see that with a few businesses. A lot of businesses will be aiming for more fun than hierarchy.
Yeah, I think that's a very good message to the leaders of companies nowadays, because what I've seen, at least, some of the companies still have this strict policy where they go, hey, we want you to follow the particular pattern. We want to follow you to follow these rules that we have established. And giving this freedom to the people that work for you, I think that helps to make them happy, and that boosts their productivity, right? So that's
Yeah.
one of the advices maybe to the leaders of the companies, or somebody who is trying to set up the underwear company. Maybe
Mhm.
that could be a thing. Cool. And you now, what I'm seeing, you are now in Germany. So comparing to Germany, what would you say about German corporate or German companies, Germany in general?
I think it's very interesting in Germany. I've seen a few different styles from different managers I've had. I've got 3 or 4 main like German managers. And it's interesting seeing these different styles of, like, some treat you like a parent, or some are parents, so they're really concerned about their family. They see me, this 19 about to turn 20-year old, and go, you're about the age my kids are turning now. Um, and they're very nice, but you still have to treat them with this level of respect as they're your superior. um, so it's just very interesting, but at some points it feels almost intimidating to have conversations, because they can easily pull this "I'm your manager" card. It's a good thing I'm above you. There was an incident last semester where we were really confused over a manager's decision, and he just pulls out this card of, well, it's a good thing I'm the manager because I'm making the decision and your small minds aren't the ones trying to work this out.
Yeah, it's tough in general. I think when you have this manager who wants to make this and decisions on her or his own without really asking your opinion, it gets tough to collaborate with such management, right? I mean, have you had the team, and you particularly as well, have any issues following these rules or those decisions that the management made at that particular event? Was that difficult for you to understand? Was it something that you wouldn't agree if you had the choice?
Are we still on this specific?
Same specific example, yes.
In that example, I think if it had have been discussed on more of a, hey, here's the one thing we've decided that we think would be, fair enough. If the good thing I'm your superior card hadn't been pulled, I think it would have ended up as more of a mutual discussion. Or if it had have been as a request, I think it would have been a lot nicer than just, hey, I'm the manager and I've decided. Because overall, that just leads to a lot of people feeling like very insignificant, and just like, I don't know. There's a lot. It ended up with a lot more rebellion, I think, just by phrasing it in terms of "I'm a superior, I've made the decision," than "Hey, I think as a team." If you're more of a friend to all of your employees, to all of your co-workers, as a leader, you're going to see a lot more cooperation, a lot more, hey, I want to help you out. Hey, I'm working here, not because the pay is good, not because it looks nice on my resume, but because I like to work here. I'm going to show up on an extra hour. I'm going to work overtime, not because I want to look nicer when you give me a reference later on, but just because, hey, I'm proud to be working with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. I get that. I think it's very similar to this child psychology that comes in every person, I believe. Once a kid wants something and you take it from the kid, then the kid starts crying, asking it for far more, because it's just a simple need that they have to
Mm-hmm.
feel secure, right? I think this is a big thing that plays a big role in the situations like that a lot. When manager tells you, hey, you shouldn't do something or you shouldn't have something, I think this inner child wakes up, and this inner child really pushes us, even though we're grown people now, pushes us to do things in our way, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it works usually. And you having that experience is, I would say, it's a bit not fun. It's a bit
Yeah.
sad. Yeah. That being said, that's sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what else? What other experiences have you had with the management in Germany or in Australia that you would like to share?
I I'm just also thinking at the same time, when have I encountered tough managers like that in Australia? And the thing is, I think as labor rights go, and I could be wrong, maybe it was just HR at the companies I've worked for have been nicer, but even when I was like, I started working really young. Like I had a job when I was 12, during like holiday breaks and such. And I think when I was like 13, going on 14, there was this one manager I had who was still like treating me like I was, paid at a full adult rate, and was still putting me through things like, um, one day, one of the chores he gave me was to power wash the entire front parking lot of this massive building, this massive complex. Like, imagine, actually, if I give that example, it's not universal. Imagine one floor of like a full tiered parking
Yeah.
lot that you get in your average shopping
Yeah.
center. Imagine a full floor of that. He's just asked me to power wash a full floor of that as this 13-year-old kid who can barely even grab the thing properly. And for the full day, I was out there working, and eventually I went to HR and go, hey, this is like, I feel like a lot's being expected here, and this is really like hurting my hand at this point. I don't know if I'm all right to keep going. My hands are wrinkled, and already I'm seeing some skin peeling off
Yeah.
here. My hand is still shaking. I can't keep this up. And I just say this as just a part of conversation with the CEO and a few other people. Um, and I'm sure that by some stances I'm dobbing on my manager or whatever. But later on, I think he was pulled up and they went, "Hey, why are you making this kid work like this? He's a kid. At least give him a break." Like, yeah, he's, being paid and is meant to be, putting a lot of work in, but it's still like, give him this break. Don't,
Don't just push him to the limits, right?
yeah. Um, but I think the ability to just have a normal conversation like that with the CEO or with management just makes it so much easier to communicate these things. And yeah, I'm sure they went back down the ladder in all strict style like they're meant to, but just the ability to be on those good terms, um, and for the CEOs and managers not to be like, oh, I shouldn't be friends with someone below me. This is unprofessional. But just instead to feel comfy saying that, it just makes everything flow so much nicer than when there's whole intimidation of I'm higher up.
Do those people, the CEOs, managers, do they have their eyes open? Are they open to those kind of changes, this kind of dialogues in Australia? Because at least the places I worked for, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes they were completely, well, they said they were open, but they were
Mm,
completely not open
yeah,
to some changes, dialogues like that. I would call even a bit of a criticism, right? Because for me, giving feedback, no matter if it's a constructively positive or constructively negative, it's still a feedback. It's a loop for improvement or a loop for or it's a gratitude note, right? A loop for appreciation, something. And I've had moments in my life, Xavier, when people were not really open to hear me up, to listen to me, and to understand what my needs are, what my basic understanding of work is, and how to change things so they make me more welcomed at my workplace or make me feel happier. Are people in Australia, CEOs in Australia, managers in Australia, open to such talks, do they really take it as a lesson of learning, or do they just use all the information you give them to delete it with a glass of whiskey at the bar in the evening on Friday?
I think in Australia they do tend to, if your business is going to survive, if it's going to thrive at all, it tends to be a lot more open to that sort of change the moment that you take it to someone higher up, the moment you have this discussion of, hey, I'm not quite fond of this. Is there anything that could change here? In business school, we always learn this mindset: innovate or die.
Okay.
That's how simply it's framed. If you don't, if you're not open to making changes, if you're not open to getting with the times, your business won't survive. And even if you're a small business, even if you're a big business, even if you're a teacher, if you're not open to changing to what the lowest person beneath you thinks is a problem, if you're not open to taking feedback and making those changes or pushing something forward so those changes happen, flop, gone, done. Um, Even small businesses I've worked for, I've said, hey, in my role in these new things that we're doing, would it be possible if we, in a restaurant I worked for, it was, hey, would it be okay if we changed the hose that we use to spray down our dishes at the end of the night? Could we make that simple change? And immediately the manager was like, all right, we need this thing. This sounds nicer. This sounds good. We've got the water pressure to take it. And I remember, I think 2 weeks later, it was already switched over. And yeah, it was a small change, but immediately everyone feels that it goes better, it flows better. And I think it took about half an hour off of the time it takes to wash the dishes at the end of the night. Every single night, you get half an hour off the wages of the guy who washes dishes, the guy who packs the dishes away at the end, and the manager who has to be there so it closes. Taking these 3 half hours off, you've got an hour and a half of wages. That comes to about 40 to 50 euros just saved on three people's wages every single night, and you've saved money that way. And also, everyone else feels it's much nicer because it's just smoother. If they don't listen to that, they will never find that out, and they'll just keep that mindset and keep losing 60 or 50, 40 to 60 euros a night.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But sometimes, they're okay losing that money. The idea comes down to, are they open to really listen to people? Like if you didn't really give the advice of improving the business processes, or improving the flow of business, and you just feel like, hey, I just broke up with my girlfriend. Can I go home and cry? Would they be okay with that, for example?
In that case, it does also tend to depend on where you're working, but I think generally, yeah. Around Christmas, even last year, working for the underpants company, it was this full on workload. And I remember at one point, one of the girls just said, man, I'm feeling pretty tired at the moment. Um, Sent a text, I think, to the manager or sent a text to HR and just goes, hey, I'm not feeling all right. Would it be okay if I just leave the new guy on for the next half hour? Um, and then the next girl gets off her lunch break. Would it be okay if we just sort of leave it to the next person's hands and I just take the rest of the day off? They went, yep, sure. Treat that extra pay for that, half hour that you'll be gone. You can still get that paid through, but they'll be coming off your Christmas leave or your Christmas bonus. She's like, okay, I'm fine with that, and that was all fine and dandy. I think she's still considered like either head manager or second in command there. So yeah, I think we're pretty open to that. And similarly at the pizza place, I the few times I've injured myself or I've been in a position where it's been like, okay, this isn't looking good. I don't think I'll be able to work through properly. And I've gone, hey, could I have the rest of the shift off? And if you make that request, it's still seen as being better than if you don't make that request, because that way they can go, okay, do you want to just go home and sign this piece of paper so we don't pay you through that rest of that shift? And I've said yes, and I remember the owners, three of the owners of this pizza shop were sitting there, like not the CEO of Domino's, he's at the shop over, but just having those three owners there, and they just went, "Hey, good on you for making that call. It saves us from having to pay your wages for the rest of that shift. We know that if you're in a bad space and you're not able to work properly, you're not just going to keep stealing our money. Um, Go home, have a great time off, and we'll see you next time you've got a shift." And I've
Wow.
head home, and everything was good.
And they didn't have issue with staffing or anything, right? They always kept this idea of having at least one additional person just in a position to cover up the rest of the work, or they shared, the people who were working together just shared work, right? If I understand it well, that's how you were being covered in that case.
Yeah, in that case, there were still enough people on to where they could help out. Or we've also got like this group chat. It's run at the same level as WhatsApp, but it's called Workplace Chat by Facebook. And you just send a text to the group chat, "Hey, sorry about this, but can someone quickly come in ASAP? We've got a shift that needs covering. We'd be happy to pay you for the next 3 hours."
Okay.
And
Wow.
someone goes, "That's 75 Australian, put it in my pocket. Absolutely, I'll be there in 10, 20 minutes. I'll throw on my uniform and be there." And done, covered immediately. Or even there are sometimes when the owner will step in and go, "Okay, I can run a few pizza deliveries, I can do this." And the owners see it as saving money that way.
Yeah,
If the owner
sure.
works, he doesn't have to pay the next person's wages.
Yeah. I have two more questions for you actually. One question it would be, what are the advices you have for the people that work in Australia or plan to work in Australia? What is one advice you would give to them in regards to this managing the manager, right? Or leading the manager to be a good manager for you? What is one advice in that regard you would have to those people?
If your manager is open to talking, if the owner is a person you can talk to, and they almost always are, treat them like another person, be their friend. Just don't treat your manager or the owner of the company as the enemy. They're not the enemy, they're the one paying you. And if you can recognize that, if you can befriend them, if you get along well, if you help them out and just sort of work not because you have to pay your check, but if you help them out because they're your friend, if you get on their side, if you treat them as someone who's also learning, and if they treat themselves as someone who's also learning, things will get along better for everyone. You'll get a nice reference at the end. You'll you'll be more likely to get a
Yeah.
promotion. You'll be just, it'll just be better. Just treat your manager as a friend
Yeah.
and get on their side.
Fair. And one more question, really. What about the managers? What would you recommend to the managers in regards to their employees, right? Because you've seen some good managers and managers that could improve. What would be one advice you would give to the managers that could improve?
Think about your employees' needs as much as you think about your own and the guy above you's needs. Because each of your employees, each of the team members you're working with or who are working under you, each of them is also human, and each of them is also going to be working better if they're in a good place. Help them out, and they'll help you out.
Fair. Very good advices, really very
Mm.
interesting advices. Thank you very much for being on a podcast with me. I hope it was interesting experience for you as well.
Mhm.
And I will post this podcast sometime soon. Thanks
Oh,
again.
good. And thank you for having me as well and giving me the chance to talk. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.